go get out there after what you really love. But if you just focus on the negatives, like I hate my life, I hate my job, I hate, and you start speaking it, now is your whole reality clouds your mind, and that's the end of it.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
So welcome to our podcast. We have a very interesting, dynamic man named Ugo Gutierrez. He owns two companies in Tulsa, one of them being Lions Road DJ Services and another one, Silo. The Silo is in West Tulsa, right before you get to Berry Hill. I've been there myself. I highly recommend it. It's a fine dining establishment with an amazing event center where you can get married or just have a casual event. Hugo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, great. Happy to be here. Now, my friends call me Ugo. Just remember that.
Yes, I know. I know. I don't pronounce the name right.
It's all right.
Ugo.
It's all right. Yes, sir. So it's strange to leave your country and your language and go somewhere else, and then realize that they say your name completely different. So different that it sounds like someone else's name. So I'm used to Hugo and Ugo and Wigo and all the jokes that come with it. A few say Hugo, which is also juice in Spanish. So growing up as a little kid, I was Jugo de naranja, orange juice, or Jugo de lulo, which is like passion fruit. So I I just think it's funny. But from a business standpoint, I do tell people, hey, it's Ugo, and I'll actually spell OOGO on my business cards because you want to be memorable.
Sure.
You want people to remember you and like, oh, wait, there's Hugo. I mean, there's a Hugo's restaurant. There's a Hugo, Oklahoma. There's a Hugo, Texas. There's actually a lot of Hugo cities.
Yes.
Which I love to know why. But you don't hear of too many Ugos. So that is mostly so that maybe I stick a little bit more in people's minds. And then the next time they're hosting an event, they're like, oh, who was that guy?
So Ugo
Yes, sir.
is an immigrant from Colombia.
Yes, born and raised.
So when did you come to the United States?
Mhm.
Why did you come to the United States? And how are you still here?
Okay. Wow, that's a complex answer. So I'll try to document it. I'll go chronologically so that hopefully it makes sense to you and your audience. So I remember very vividly this one afternoon. I was in my home in Bogota. We lived in an apartment. It was a fifth floor apartment, so lots of stairs. And I had to be somewhere around 6, 7 years old. And I was watching this show in English, and I was pretending like I was talking to the show. And there was something about English that just went straight to my heart. Don't know why. I mean, I can only credit that God put it in my heart that I would love English and would love American culture. And I remember that day I told myself someday I would live there. And anyways, that got buried in the back of my heart somewhere, and it resurfaced around at the age of 14 when I actually had an experience to start going to a Christian school in Bogota, and I embraced the Christian faith from a Catholic background. And in Colombia, I, there is a little bit of a difference. Like at least in my upbringing, the Catholic faith was a little bit more distant. Only the priest had access to the word, and I just never knew that I could have a personal relationship with a savior, or that I needed a savior, even though I mean it was a statue and there's also the crucifix and everything. But anyways, at that point, at 14, it seemed like a lot of the things that were really ingrained in me became apparent, and there was a group of Americans who came to my high school in Colombia, and they told us about ORU, and they said, "Hey,
Oral Roberts University here in
Yes.
Tulsa."
Yep. And they brought a basketball team, and I mean they were unbeatable, at least to because most people in Colombia are fairly short. I towered over most of them at 6'2".
Yeah. But in all fairness, ORU has had historically a good team from time to time.
Yes. I mean, it doesn't take much. Again, in the land of the short soccer players, you come in at 6 something and you're king. So, but yeah, I remember like it was yesterday. They came. They seemed like gods to all the rest of us, kids, and they said, "Hey, there's a Christian university," and it was mind blowing because at least at the time we didn't have them in Colombia, or not that I knew of. And they painted that picture, and man, I fell in love with Tulsa and ORU at the tender age of 14. And I said to myself, I think that's God's plan for me, that someday I will go to Tulsa somehow. I mean, that's a lot of dollars, and counting from pesos seem impossible. So, but yeah, there was a scholarship program. I applied for it. I had to keep my grades up. I had to study English. So from um, 14 to basically 18, I studied as hard as I could, and I was given one of the scholarships. But the next challenge was to find a host family. They sent my papers to several cities, and wherever the host family was found, that's where I would go to do 12th grade. And it just so happened, after 9 months of waiting for something to uh, catalyze from this program, that finally a host family agreed to host me. 12 of my classmates also got the scholarships, and all of them left before me. So I almost gave up on it. But finally, it happened. So I came to Tulsa at a very interesting time. It was September 27th of 2001.
So you're saying that this city could have been anywhere in the United States, and it happened
Yeah.
to be Tulsa, Oklahoma, right here where ORU is.
Yeah, what a coincidence, right? Yes. So what an accident. So yeah, it happened right after 9/11. And it was crazy. It was a crazy time to come to America. It was a time where you can feel something in the air. I couldn't catch it, couldn't grasp it because I didn't grow up here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember where I was on 9/11.
Yeah.
And
Most people that are here in the United States that were over 10 years old at that time can remember right where they were, exactly what they were doing. I certainly can. Pivotal point in U.S. history.
It was incredible. I mean, unbelievable in a bad way.
Yes.
I remember one of the first thoughts, of course, like, oh my gosh, this is awful. But the second thought I had was, I really hope no Colombians were involved. It sounds crazy to say, but as a nation that has been um, put in a certain box of, okay, the cocaine capital of the world, and everybody down there is a drug lord, and everybody lives in the jungle. There are certain like what do you call those? The word
Stereotypes?
Stereotypes, yes. That just come with every nationality. I mean,
Sure.
if we talk Middle Eastern, if we talk Asian, there are certain things that we put. We humans like to put people into boxes. And
sure.
There's not really.
Not only do we put people in boxes, we put God in box, like you said, that religion you came out of, and maybe Christianity puts God in a box to a certain degree, and so we're nationalists, racists, and all kinds of other ists in most cultures. And hopefully we can let go of that as a people, and we can help people grow past that.
It's a dual purpose. So I believe that America was blessed because in many ways it was founded in biblical principles, but it became the prettiest girl in the ball. So because of that, there's a certain amount of ego and arrogance that came into it.
Unfortunately.
So to be U.S. centric in many beliefs, and I mean it's not far from wrong, but I prefer to go with the people who keep humility even in the midst of success.
That's right.
So anyway,
so you were here post 9/11.
Yes, barely, but post 9/11, and I did 12th grade at a high school here named Grace Fellowship High School, and then started to knock on the door at ORU. I mean, I tell you, I was knocking on every possible door I could, and all the doors were shut in my face. Like, no, you don't have enough money. No, you can't take any loans because you're a flight risk. You're an immigrant, and all the things that I tried.
What door opened?
Not gonna believe this, but I happened. So as I was praying and trying the last thing, and it failed. I was praying, and what came to my heart, I mean, I don't hear God in an audible way, but there are ideas that stick to my heart, and it's like, Okay, I'm a little bit obsessive when the right idea comes to my heart,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
called purpose-filled, passionate living.
yeah, so the directive was write a letter explaining why you should be allowed into ORU and have it ready. Like, okay. And I was doing the very last basketball camp because I was trying for basketball manager to see if I could get a partial scholarship and somehow work for the rest. I was going to work 40 hours a week and then some, and that door didn't open. But I had the letter on me, and it just so happened that one of my classmates from high school was running around the labs, the track at the aerobic center at ORU, and she happened to be one of the daughters of Richard Roberts. So I was like,
Yeah,
uh,
head man,
yes,
man that
yeah,
has some pull.
yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, well, I hate to use the connection, but Olivia, could you please wait? I have a letter for your dad. Do you mind giving it to him?
So be
Long shot.
prepared, have community,
Hmm.
and
And a
don't over
message.
ask.
Have a message ready.
Yes.
So yeah, that long shot, I mean, the Hail Mary pass. And then the following Monday, I remember um, I got a call from Lindsay Roberts and they said, okay, we're willing to meet with you. And the deal was this is no full ride. You're not going to get, a sweet deal handed to you. We're going to give you a semester. And if that semester turns out good or well, we'll extend another semester. So you're going to have to keep up your grades. And
As
it's,
it should be.
yeah.
Either you're taking what it is that you've been given
Mhm.
and you're building on that opportunity, or it's not of value to you.
And I honestly don't know who else may have been helped. I don't know what it was about my letter that compelled them, but obviously they saw something, maybe the initiative to just try, to knock on the door. And so, yeah, little by little, semester by semester, they kept approving for my tuition to be taken care of. And I basically worked two other jobs and lived off campus because I couldn't afford to borrow the money to live on campus. And I couldn't borrow money, period. I was a flight risk as
Yeah.
an immigrant. So yeah, I just worked my
So-
way through it. I started with a theology major. Local church pastor was my first major, with a minor in business. And after I finished my business minor, I was like, I really need to know more about business. So I decided to finish a second degree in international business. So altogether, it took me 4.5 years, and I walked away with two pieces of paper.
So business and theology.
Business and theology, yeah. So I definitely have always felt called to be a pastor, to be in ministry, to love people, to take care of them. So I thought that that was going to be where I would go right away.
Do you think that being a local business owner and leading a group of people in a certain way could be looked at or viewed as being somewhat pastoral?
Absolutely. I think if I were your enemy, I would tell you that only in the box that is called the church can you be a godly person. And that's the only place where ministry happens. Again, if I were your enemy, which we do have an enemy. But if I were your father or your savior, I would tell you every single place you go, you are a ministry. Like your life is a ministry. Whatever you do, if you do it in a godly manner and loving people as you love yourself, um, you can be a pastor or an apostle or a teacher anywhere you go. So I think that for any of us who are people of faith, we are more called to be marketplace because we all have a job, right? Whether we're business owners or not, but we are called to be marketplace ministers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And a lot of people look at jobs as an obligation instead of an opportunity.
yeah,
A lot of people begrudgingly go to work on Monday mornings and look for Friday afternoons.
yeah,
We want to fight that. We want to
Yes.
help people see what their purpose is
hmm
and live passionately about that. Might it be on the back of a garbage truck, or might it be an elected official at the state level or even
Yeah.
federal?
Uh-huh.
Because I think that God has blended us together so that we can live out what it is that He's created us to be.
Absolutely. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur. Not everybody can be a CEO. So we need people of all kinds. And I think at different parts in your journey, maybe your early 20s or throughout your 20s, you have to be somewhere in the middle, and eventually you get to the point where you might be the boss. But not everybody's called to be the boss. So wherever
And
you are, you need to be the best version of yourself.
and not always is it better to be the boss, because
Yes.
those things come with a different stress level.
Yes.
Not only is a boss or a company owner responsible for their own lives, they're
Hmm.
responsible for those people that work with them to make
Yes.
sure that they're taken care of properly.
Hmm.
Not only do they have the same common life issues of having to support them and their family, they have to support them and their team as well,
Yes.
which that could be a bigger burden.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
let's fast forward to 2019,
Yes.
where you're already launched a DJing business.
Okay. So let me bridge between. Okay, I just got accepted to RU, uh, to the DJ business. So Lions Road, I officially registered an LLC in 2010. Eventually, I let that go and transition to an S corp. So the S corp is younger than 2010, but the name and the trademark has been mine since 2010. I started to teach people how to salsa dance at RU, which was a little bit of a weird transition for me, because coming from a Catholic background, going into a Christian background, um, in Colombia, dancing becomes evil. Like, okay, that was your past life. That's sinful. You don't do it. It's from the devil. Period. And yeah, that's just not something you do.
And
And
whose
then,
theology was this about it
so
being evil?
uh,
Was it the
Col-
Catholic or Christian?
I think the Colombian Christian of the early 2000s, like
Okay.
you leave
Do
that
not
behind.
dance.
Yeah, dancing just doesn't lead to any good place,
Okay. Yeah.
and there
And
are people in America who shadow that belief, because I've DJed a lot, so I have encountered plenty of those beliefs. But my own classmates started to say, "Oh, you're from Colombia, can you teach us to salsa dance?" And it wasn't immediate at first. When you're from Colombia, people think about cocaine or coffee, and I don't deal any of those. I'll drink a coffee with anyone, but yeah, I just don't sell it. And then a third subject that seemed to come up was dancing. Um, I never thought that dancing was going to be any kind of an asset, except for when I was 10 years old, and I maybe started to like girls. I saw that my mom was a good dancer. It's like, okay, mom, you need to teach me, because yeah, it's a girl I like and she likes to dance. So that's how it all started for me. It was just a cultural thing, but it was just like playing football here. Like, okay, it's Thanksgiving, let's go throw the ball. Or, there are things that you do here
sure.
as an American that are cultural, that don't translate to Colombia. Dancing was something common for me, that didn't really translate. I never thought of myself as like the salsa king, which eventually became one of my nicknames at ORU. But in the land of zeros and ones, the seven is king. So I was a pretty good dancer, but not a 10 by any means. So what happened was I started casually in the living room of my house, which I rented with a couple of guys, uh, getting through college, and invited everybody I knew. Like, hey, I'm gonna give in. You guys are asking me to teach you to dance. I don't think there's anything evil about dancing, so let me see what I can do with it.
So how
So
many people at a time?
at first, the first party was in the winter of, what was that, 2004, and about 15 people showed up. I was like, hey, that's great. But
In your living room.
in my living room.
Seems like a lot to me.
But wait, there's more. Let's do it again next month. 45.
Oh
The
my.
third month, over 80 people. I lost count. So I was like, okay. I phoned my youth pastor at the time. I was like, can you let me borrow your youth building, please? I got something here. And almost 300 people came to my fourth party. And it just kept growing and growing. And we outgrew the youth building and moved all the way up to the Cityplex Towers, the 60th floor, where my capacity was 500 people. And so I was just as surprised as anyone, but I knew that I loved people and dancing. Back in Colombia at age 14, I started to drum and do sound for my church. So that also got me up to par with lighting and a few other skill sets that now I was using for Salsa Nation. So I registered a business at the time. It was called Salsa Nation. And I ran that probably for 3 or 4 years. And I mean, by the hundreds, people were coming. So that was a little bit of a manifestation of kind of a public persona where I realized, okay, I have charisma. And when I put together events, people come. So that's great. My boss at the time didn't like it. I was pursuing my green card and I was a 3D animator. And he pulled me aside and said, hey, that doesn't lead anywhere good. You really shouldn't be hosting these parties. I've seen this before because he had someone else that had done something similar with swing and he didn't like it. So there was opposition, which was interesting. I wish I hadn't listened because down the road, Lions Road would be basically a more American incarnation of Salsa Nation. But long story short, 2010, I have all the pieces together because a lot of the people who met at my parties in the Salsa Nation days came back a few years later and said, hey, can you DJ our wedding? Do you ever DJ weddings? So it was my own friends that came now as couples and you're the matchmaker. I didn't even know what matchmaker meant. I had to look it up in the dictionary back before we all had computers in our hands. And so because they were fond of me bringing them together as a matchmaker, eventually got to the point where I said, all right, you know what? These people think I can do it. I've seen a few of them get married and their DJs were awful. So you know what? I will do it. I'm going to throw myself in the water. So in 2010, I registered Lions Road. And by 2012, it was a full-time job. It replaced completely my day job. The company was in trouble from the 2008 crash. And I knew that eventually, even though I was in management at the time, it was probably going to go under. So I did get laid off in October of 2011, a year or so into Lions Road. And I decided at that point, do I look for a paycheck or do I pursue my own thing? Like, do I stand on my own? Do I have what it takes? The core questions of every man. Do I have what it takes? And can I rise to the challenge? And I somehow believed in me enough to say, you know what, I will do it. And yeah, by 2012, I was making in a month what I used to make in a year. So
Wow.
it was a quick transformation. I got 3 DJ systems ready. And then, it grew from 90 weddings one year to 120 to 150 to 200, all the way up to 2019 was our peak year in number of weddings, which was 412. I remember it was yesterday.
Sounds like that's easy money. Anybody can do it.
Well, if you can take the pressure, if you have the charisma, if you're good at it, at managing people, because you're carrying the expectations of bride and groom and mom, of both bride and groom, and there might be stepmoms and then the dads and the extended family. So I don't think it's for everybody. It sounds easy, but I'll be honest. I make it look easy. It's not for everybody. You have to love people, dancing. You have to be good in business. You have to somewhere in there balance and have personal time. I think it's crucial to have faith because without a way to replenish yourself, you're spending yourself and overexerting yourself, giving out so much to become the master of ceremonies of a wedding that if you don't know that come Sunday or Monday, whenever your day off is, you're literally going to be empty, down and depressed because you just rode a really high high. And Oral Roberts actually, in some of his sermons, talked about this. You need to ride the high, but also expect the low. Like all of us in any big event like that are going to be more than we typically are. And it took me years to figure out, okay, I don't make life-changing decisions on Sundays or Mondays because it takes me a while to recover. But then you also give up your weekends and your social life goes away with the weekends.
That is your social life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Social life with a bunch of strangers.
Yes. Yeah. So there are some psychological implications to that. But thankfully, at the time I started to do weddings, I was already married. So I didn't really need my social circle as much as I thought I did. So I was fine with the price.
But you were the round piece to go in the round hole.
Yeah.
You weren't a square piece trying to drive yourself into this square hole.
Yeah. So one of the things that I would say is, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more, secret to success. I think the very first one is you have to know yourself. Who are you?
Everybody knows themselves, right?
No. Most people don't know themselves.
Right.
The best thing you can do for yourself in the sense of wherever you are now, if you haven't done it already, you have to watch yourself doing different things and which out of all the things that you did this week or this month energized you so much or made you passionate about it that you could stay up all night doing it, and I'm talking in, consistently, something that fuels you. So if you watch for those things, that is passion, that is calling.
Yeah.
And
Do you
not,
think somebody can have passion and calling without gifts and abilities that align with that? Or do you think it'll be a friction in their life? How does that work?
I think you have to have both. So
So how do you know which one, how do you know the fourfold chord, so to say?
okay, so you can have passion or appreciation. Is it passion or appreciation? Because if you appreciate the opera, that's wonderful. But if you can't sing, that's not your calling. But if you appreciate weddings and you can dance and you're good with technology and you're good with people and you're good with business, then okay, maybe throw yourself in the water as your own man,
So,
leading an entertainment company.
so your passion, your appreciation might transfer into passion if your gifts and abilities allow you to
Mhm.
make that transition.
Yeah, if you match it. I don't believe in being a 5 or a 6 and trying to work to be a 10. Yeah, you'll never do it. Find what you're naturally an 8 or a 9 at, and then bring that to excellence. Perfection is never gonna be there. I've been a perfectionist my whole life, and I struggle with it, and I believe in excellence, but I think perfectionist tendencies are destructive. Um,
But there again, you have to define what perfect is. If
yeah,
perfect is what God has created you to be or what you think you should be.
yeah, I bet this is a fallen world, so we should just say there's no perfect 10, but a 9.9 is
Pretty
amazing,
close.
pretty close. And can you walk away with just being excellent? And I think that's also a key to success. You can burn yourself out trying to be a 10, when I think we're all called to be 9s, honestly, at the
Yeah.
most, and
Yeah.
not at everything. So anyways, but yeah, so an accident at in college led me to DJ weddings for my friends, which led me to now DJing over 1,100 weddings personally. And then as a team, Lions Road, we have done over 4,000 weddings. And I love to tell you that every wedding has been a success. The 0.05% that didn't still weigh hard in me. Like we've had a few failures. And I think you just get up again and you try harder the next time, and you see the train wrecks coming. So now it's almost like I'm in the Matrix. Like I see things coming that you would never know at a wedding. And if I do my job right, the bride and groom will never find out that it was almost a train wreck, but it looked amazing to them and it was a perfect night to their standards, because there were people like me who have done it so many times. It's just second nature.
Okay, so what you're saying is you have had some challenges at least, and you've learned from them.
Absolutely.
And what did you
Yeah.
do about those challenges? How did you try? I mean, did you just say, "Oh well, whatever," or
No.
did
So you always have to, okay, if you have a bad day at work, what happens? Tell me.
I haven't worked for somebody else in 30 plus years,
Yeah.
and when I had a bad day at work, when we had our own contracting firm, there weren't very many of them
Hmm.
because we were ahead of the game, just like you're talking about,
Yeah.
because we learned.
Yeah.
And we actually learned in advance of potential issues to circumvent those situations.
Yeah.
And if there was a problem, then we took care of it because we were in the retaining wall industry
Retaining wall. Yeah.
where you could have a lot of major failures if
Mhm.
you weren't careful and you didn't care what you were doing. And there are people out there that do that on a regular basis. I don't know how they stay in business.
Yeah.
But we were one of the top retaining wall contractors in the state of Oklahoma, and
Hmm.
went over to Arkansas some. And my answer to your question, what did we do? We made immediate correction.
Perfect. So I think the difference is, and it's honestly part of why I think the wedding industry is so mentally and emotionally taxing. It's a live event, it's a crucial, lifelong memory. And if you make a mistake that is a public mistake, there's no way to fix it. It's a live show, and you say the wrong name or you play the wrong song, and the moment's gone.
Yeah.
And
You say if somebody called you as the bride Hugo instead of Ugo, there might be a problem.
Well, or call them the wrong last name, or forget their names and Mr. and Mrs. Bride and Groom, which actually I know has happened to one of my competitors. I won't mention them, but so I mean, there are things you have to get right. Uh, as a wedding DJ or entertainer, the first hour of my performance is an expected perfection, meaning the ceremony has to go perfect or you're going to get a complaint. And then the first 30 minutes to an hour of the reception has to be perfect. You have to play the exact song at the exact time and the time marker that they tell you for the first dance, father daughter's dance, mother son dance. Those three have to be exactly right, not too long, not too short. And then you have to get their names right, not only for the wedding party coming in, but also, of course, the couple. And all night long, you got to make sure that you don't call them the wrong name. So those are things you don't think of until you are in that role. And then what happens when something doesn't go right? Like, hey, the caterer thought it was tomorrow, not today. What do you do as the DJ? Because if people don't eat, they're not going to dance. So
Yeah, wait to dance until they eat, and they never get it to eat, so they never dance.
They never dance, and now the bride is upset at you because there wasn't a party, but it was really the food that was out of place. One time, I actually ordered pizza for everybody. Like, okay, it's on me. I don't care if you pay me back, but I was like $300 or $400 worth of pizza. Caterer thought it was tomorrow. They're not coming.
We're gonna make it happen.
Let's cut the cake first. Pizza's on its way. You're gonna have to eat what I could find for you. And we had a party, and they paid me back and then some. They actually tipped me for my efforts, but I didn't run the problem by them. I made executive decisions like, I know that if you guys don't eat, we're not gonna have the party of your dreams. So you know what? Hey, let's cut the cake first. There's a problem with catering, and that's all I told them. To the bride and groom. Maybe other people told them the rest of the information, but I was like, okay, I'm running this show.
Right.
So we cut the cake. We got everybody sugared up. Just so happened that I bought enough time that at the end of that, pizza got there. So, okay, we got pizza. I'm so sorry, but your caterer dropped the ball. This is the best we could do. Oh, but who paid for this? I did, but you can pay me later. Everybody ate. All right, everybody, time to party. And it was a great party. Nobody knew any different. And it was a great success. And they paid me back and then some. I wasn't expecting it. I mean, yes, the payback, yes, but I don't want expecting the tip. But
right. But you had done the right thing, and you went above and beyond what expectations were. You saved them from having a botched reception,
a train wreck. And I think that's part of it. I think going the extra mile, very biblical. I think is absolutely a key to success.
Yeah.
But you have to love what you do. So let me go back to passion. So I'm passionate about people. I'm called to ministry. I'm moving empathy. So I feel what people feel. So which is addictive about weddings, because that high of a wedding is like, oh my gosh, and the love they have for each other.
Yes, I mean, I can imagine.
Tear up over the vows. I tear up over fathers dancing with their daughters, because I have 2 daughters and a boy too. But that's such a special moment to this day. I mean, you would think that after 1,100 weddings I'd be calloused about it, but I still love it. And that's a big thing, that the passion renews me even after the burnout, because almost every year, wedding season, heavy wedding season is September, October, November. So by December, I want to kill somebody and I'm burnt out. And it takes mostly, January, February, March to like, okay, back at it. I love it again. But it's the love of people that to me renews it. But if I didn't know that I love people, they energize me, I love music, I love dancing, that I'm playing to my strengths, then I probably would have burnt out on year one. And what I'm wanting to go back to is that if you're going into business for yourself, you have to love it. It has to be a passion. Otherwise, you're going to hate it. And I think there's a lot of people watching that hate their jobs, absolutely hate their jobs. Well, they're a stepping stone. See it as a stepping stone. Buy yourself time. Pastor Willie George, formerly the pastor of head pastor of Church on the Move, has the 6 day concept where you work for 5 days. On that 6th day, on your Saturday, which is most people's free day, work on your passion that day until that one day can replace all 5 of your weekdays. That's what I did. I worked weddings as my 6th day um, passion until I had enough money to say, forget about the day job. Now I have my weekdays to me, which are my weekends. Not quite all of them, but not with 2 businesses, anyways. But yeah, that's how you do it. It's okay to hate your job. See it as a catalyst, as like somebody's poking you in the back, prodding you to say, go get out there after what you really love. But if you just focus on the negatives, like I hate my life, I hate my job, I hate, and you start speaking it, now it's your whole reality clouds your mind, and that's the end of it. You have to see it as a stepping stone. When you first get in the car, you have to turn the key, you have to press the gas, and there's got to be momentum that actually gets you going. Most people expect to get in the car and just go. Like,
Right.
it should be going. Well, there are steps that you have to take. Your job might be dragging you down, but what you really like, what helps you survive the ups and downs of any industry, which I've had plenty, is that passion and the people. But
Do you
also,
think that that stepping stone can be appreciated at the same time, even though that's not what you know you should be doing forever?
yeah,
And we can have a fulfilled life of doing that, realizing what services we're rendering for people during that process, so that we can have a light switch go off in us of living that purpose for others as we're being developed in something that we think that we should be one day.
absolutely. When you're in fight or flight mode, the world shrinks, and you think this is the only place where I can possibly have this job, and this is the only person I can work for, and I'm miserable because they're probably a narcissist, and you just hate your life
I hate that.
because you're working for the wrong person. If you're in that situation, you need to go get out there and see what else there is that you can do working for someone else. So I do think that working for the right person while you are the worker is
And being
crucial
developed.
and being developed.
And even if you were going to be a worker forever, because
Yeah,
there
forever.
are workers are needed.
Yeah.
And you were telling me earlier, before we started recording, something about your challenge in 2019.
2020. Yeah, the pandemic. So
Yeah.
we can definitely cover that.
Yeah. And with that, there was shutdowns,
Hmm.
and it wasn't as bad in Tulsa as it was in other parts of the country, but I couldn't go into Krispy Kreme one night
Hmm.
and get a donut.
Yeah.
And that one moment sticks in me like everything, because we were contractors at that time. We built retaining walls, and we were essential workers. These guys had their doors shut because people didn't need to eat donuts. But that was way outside of the regular life that I expected.
Hmm.
And I had a way of appreciation for everybody that does what they did in my life before that.
Hmm.
But 2020 instilled a great appreciation for everybody of all walks of life contributing to my life to be as it is.
Yeah.
And that's part of why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you had a challenge in 2020.
So I enjoyed 10 years of almost unhindered success. Top entertainment company for weddings in particular in Tulsa. 2010 through, well, we were in the top in the very beginning, but I would say from let's say 2016 through 2020, I mean, we were just the top dog. Like, everything I touched was gold, and great people working for me, and I mean, it was an amazing time to be in business at the time. And then I remember vividly that Monday where I was told, you have to shut down. And basically, there's no end date, but everybody stay home. It'll be 2 weeks. Don't worry about it. It'll be 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, 2 weeks. But what happens to my business? And then all the phone calls that started to come in, it's like, hey, I think we need to cancel our wedding. Hey, we need to cancel our wedding. Hey, we need to postpone. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. No gatherings. You're telling me my business that feeds my wife and 3 children is non-essential? It sure is essential to me. And I don't have months of overhead in the bank to say, oh, sure, let's shut down. So I had an opportunity. Rewind the tape to, and this is a little bit of what aggravates the situation for me in 2020. In 2017, I heard that this venue was going up for sale. And I've seen this many times in the wedding industry, where if a venue starts to go up for sale, it basically goes down the drain. People freak out, cancel their weddings there, or they just don't book any new weddings. And most of the time, that building ends up being something else down the road. So I was in the inside circle, so I heard about it before it was public. But yeah, I just kind of wrote off the venue. I said, okay, it's probably gonna go out of business. And then not even 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from a bank saying, "Hey, we heard about Lions Road. You guys have a great reputation. We would love to back you up in any investments you would like to make." And I was like, "Oh, I mean, one of those God things." Like the first thing that came to my mind as I was on the phone was the silo, and I was like, "How much money are you willing to lend me?" And I started a journey because they initiated it. They also kind of coached me through it, but to make a business plan, to get into all the forms that you need to uh, fill out for financing of that caliber, over almost $2 million worth of
How much?
financing. So I bought it for 1.7. So roughly, round up to 2 million when it was sold.
That's a big investment for a guy that's
Oh my
been in
gosh.
the DJing business.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at the time we were making $500,000 a year, so it wasn't
Sure.
like
I mean, that's a lot of money, but I'm talking
yeah.
about you didn't have that kind of investment at that point.
No. Biggest purchase I've ever made to this day too. So, um, and two Ugos inside of me. The 18-year-old kid screaming, freaking out, like, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot of pesos!" And then the business owner, like, "Oh wow, this is generational wealth. A shot at my kids. Never had to, do any of the things that I had to do. I was raised by a single mom. We had poverty very much in my background. There was 1 month where we had to choose between paying the electrical or the water. My dad basically nowhere to be found to support us financially. So, with that frame of mind, poverty has always been a fear of mine, and I think that was also why the next part of the story gets interesting and why God had to single out that issue in my heart. So, okay, I by 2018, I have keys to the place. Brand new,
$1.7 million later, you have keys in your
keys.
hand.
Yeah, I know. The bank is very happy with me, those interest payments. But again, I go up a whole league, from being the DJ to now being the venue owner, the first stop, the top of the industry totem pole, basically. So I'm like, this is it. Let's go. Now the challenge was, okay, a very extremely rustic venue now needs to come up to par with the very Art Deco. Everything needs to be white and bright. Taste of bride of 2018 at the time, because we went through that transition where most of the Southwest was country weddings, burlap, and everything, Western.
Is it still today similar to the way that you had updated it back in 18?
Yeah. So 2018,
beautiful place.
18 and 19, I spent almost every free moment renovating the venue. I didn't have the money to hire it out, so most of the labor was my team and I. So we whitewashed the walls. Completely changed the color palette, tore up ugly old carpet and put very nice kind of engineer wood, waterproof wood, if there's such a thing.
So 1.7 million plus sweat equity.
Oh my God. And even at that rate, over the next 2 years, about $400,000 worth of improvements.
So we're up to 2.1 now, and then the pandemic hits.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm excited. It's January of 2020. Wow, we just had a great sales season. This is going to be amazing. When it's all said and done, this might be $1 million year for me. I can retire from DJing so much. I can go into ministry, which is my heart and passion. So that's where I was thinking January of 2020. So we're gearing up for a grand reopening. Just needed to finish a couple of touch-ups here and there. And literally in March of 2020, we were going to have an official grand reopening, even though we never shut down, because we had to keep paying the bills and there were weddings booked even before I bought it. So we just continued the business. But yeah, I remember March of 2020, such frightful, lonely, top of the industry place to be. like, who do I even go to for advice? Who's ever walked this, um, where a pandemic makes you shut down two wedding businesses? It was a very lonely place. It was a depressing place. Um, if it hadn't been for my faith, I think I probably would have killed myself from the
Wow.
pressure. It was insane. The weight of the world on my shoulders, more money than I can afford to go on the red for, you know, and a whole team. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had 12 people whose livelihood
Yeah.
came from me.
Yeah. They relied on you.
Yeah,
They trusted you to supply
trusted
for
me.
them.
I mean, they represented me well, but it was an amount of pressure I've never been under. And honestly, I wish I had done better. I will admit and apologize for the fact that that's when the boy came out, and I didn't handle everything about 2020 the way it should have been. I closed myself in, and my mental health went to absolute garbage. Um, but it felt like the Titanic sank, and I got to be in one of the barges, and there was only one paddle, and I had the paddle. I was like, by golly, I will get you to the shore. Whatever I do, I will get you to the shore. So that's most of 2020, getting my team and I to shore uh, and safety. And I did it. At one point, we were.
You were able to retain most of your employees.
So that is where, honestly, probably more than we want to cover. But so I did let go of 4. I had to get down to a handful. And unfortunately, 80% of my team, after they survived and went through the pandemic with me, left me.
Oh, wow.
That was one of the hardest things of 2021 was the.
So you carried these guys, not making any money, and they left you.
Yes. Once the sun came out again, the storm was gone. It was insult to injury, honestly. And the betrayal was.
So it's easy
deep.
to be a business owner, right?
Oh, piece of cake. Especially when you can copy all the ideas from the guy who had to get injured to enable you to survive. So, and that was one of the hardest things, is that in the process, I created one competitor who I could have taken to court. But you know what? I surrendered it to the Lord and said, you know what? You be my revenge. But the hard part is that this person was very strategic in the way they played their betrayal to make it look like he was the victim of so many things, a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never been played like that before.
It's amazing how people can twist the truth.
It's unbelievable. It's a demonic skill set that I don't possess, nor do I want to.
Yes.
But
somehow we could be wiser.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow we could be ready for that if we had the right people in our lives to show us, like you've
Mm-hmm.
experienced this. Maybe you could help somebody else
Absolutely
not experience this.
I feel like, so typically the boss is the narcissist, and the employees are the victims. But in this situation, I was victim to one of my employees, which is again odd, and the power structure is odd. But the thing is that I never pursued power. I pursued influence.
Yes,
I think
there's
that's
a difference.
The godly way.
One's control, one is
Mhm.
help.
Yes,
One is-
inspiration.
yes,
One
yes.
inspires, the other one seeks to control you.
Yes.
And in the process, I learned so much. I do feel like I can help survivors of narcissism. Narcissism is an extreme selfishness. And the Bible, whether you like it or not, absolutely predicted the fact that in the latter days, which we are in now, people will become lovers of themselves. Lovers of themselves because, we have devices that feed our ego constantly. Whatever you feed the most, that's what grows the most. So we have a generation of selfish people, and some of them go past the point of no return, which is narcissism. And then now they seek to feed this fake reality in their own mind and control everybody, because no one can disturb this reality that we're creating with all these lies and manipulation. And it's insane. I mean, it's outright demonic. But I think everybody out there who is a person of faith should know that even in the church, we have a world of narcissists and a world of empaths. And unfortunately, everybody who follows Christ will have a Judas moment. 100%. You probably have had yours. And if you
Maybe I've
haven't,
sold myself out from time to time.
yeah,
Maybe I have. Because less than a decade ago, or maybe a little more, I was shown that it wasn't about making money.
yeah,
What I was doing was working to make money. And a lot
yeah,
of people do that
yes,
instead of living their purpose and helping others. Now, we still shared the values of equal exchange,
hmm,
which my family needs to receive fair exchange for our efforts,
yeah,
but no more than that.
yeah,
And we were driven to give them what they paid for
hmm,
and at a level of excellence.
yes,
And when that switch turned from focusing on making money to serving properly, mind you, I say before that point, I was Judicizing myself
yeah,
because I was focused on selling myself for money
yeah,
instead of living the passion-filled life with a purpose-driven life that I've lived since that point.
yeah. I
And
think,
then the money changed.
mhm,
Believe it or not, there was a lot more money
mhm,
after that than
yeah,
before that because people loved what I was doing for them and I loved being able to do it for them. It changed the whole dynamic.
the word says that you may prosper as your soul prospers. When you pursue money, money's like a pretty girl at the ball. I brought this up. It's America being the pretty girl at the ball. But if you go after her, she's gonna slap you in the face, walk away. Like, but if you go after your passion and your purpose, and you do right by people, they will reward you for it, and that's where money
Yeah.
exchanges favorably. So
Then
that,
the real beautiful girl will come into your life
mhm,
and you guys will live harmoniously, hopefully,
mhm,
because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you can recognize if she's doing what she's supposed to be doing or not, and you can make that decision if you want to join her or not,
mhm,
instead of going after the worldly beauty
yeah,
and sidetracking your life, which a lot of young people do.
yeah. Well, we have a fatherless generation. There's no one to show us the ropes of an emotionally present life because most of our previous generation is emotionally unavailable.
Even if you have a dad
Hmm.
and he's not the perfect dad, and maybe he's pretty flawed, if you're not looking at God as your father,
Uh-huh.
of the one that should lead you the perfect way,
Yeah.
and you're letting multi-generational issues come into your life
Hmm.
because your dad might not be perfect, maybe you won't have the perfect focus. But
Hmm.
when we know that God is our father and he's the one that's leading us into this, and I think you and I agree on this perfectly.
Yeah.
So who is my daddy? Who's my daddy?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest purposes behind me leaving my culture and my language and everything I knew behind growing up in a single parent household was to come to America and be isolated like a patient at the surgery table where you have no choice but to let God do an open heart surgery and to single himself out as I am your father and your lover and your provider and your protector. Like it's all me, buddy. Like it's I am your everything. And the
As it
quicker
should be.
as it should be, but there's inside of all of us there's a rebellious child that says no, I am it, let me do it, let me do it. If you ever had a little kid, it's like let me do it. Like it's ingrained in us to be selfish, to
How,
be arrogant.
how about this, admitting that around a decade ago, I let go of some of that selfishness
I think
just a moment ago.
I think
And
when
I had already written theological books and statements and all
uh-huh,
of this stuff. And that was another light switch that needed to be turned off.
I think
and then another light switch, and then another light switch in the last decade to get us to where we are right now. I don't know what the next light switch is, but I know there's probably one,
yeah.
at least.
So God, I think people need to understand this. We live in a fallen world, and God did not mean for the world to be the way it is. And this might be worth another podcast session, but if you go through bad things, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, God didn't want it to be this way. He's playing it to his advantage, and you have to trust that he's orchestrating everything. But we live in a world that was given to man, and men subleased it to evil. And then Christ had to humiliate himself to become a man, because that was the only way to take the sublease away from evil, and he had to die for it. So now there's an eviction notice on in the world that says the devil has its days counted, and then you have to get out of here. I'm gonna literally evict you from the world. But in the meantime, we are in a war, in a spiritual war between good and evil. So bullets fly for both. You may get a blessing you didn't deserve, but there are angels that are literally shooting those kind of bullets around, and then you might get a curse you did not deserve. Something bad happened to you, but it's because evil also gets to shoot. So, but if you let go of the control and you let God explain it to you, like, why did this happen, Lord? And I had that moment with the silo that I like to talk about, and he will turn it around, and he will make you a better person for it, and he will refine you. So at this point, in 15 years after I started my journey as an entrepreneur, I stand as a stronger person. I still have the empathy, but I'm not as gullible. I'm not as trusting. I'm a little bit better about background checking people, not only
Handling serpents and they don't harm you.
because there are serpents, because there are wolves in sheep clothing, and not everybody comes. Honey attracts both the bees and the flies, and you have to discern between the two.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And you got to guard yourself.
mhm.
And to me, there's a challenge in helping the flies as well.
If they can be helped, but some of
Yes.
the flies can't, and you have to
Sometimes,
try.
sometimes turning them away
Yeah,
and loving them the way they need to be loved instead of the way you want to love them
yeah,
is helping them.
yeah.
And a lot of people have a hard time grasping that concept.
Well, it's more comfortable to enable people than to be truthful to them and tell them to their face, hey, what you're doing is wrong, and you're harming yourself and others around you.
And you're about to harm me, and I'm not
Mhm.
going to allow that to happen in my
Yeah.
life. I hope that you can go learn your lesson and you can treat the next person differently.
So the next time that somebody comes to me with a sob story of how hard they've had it, and poor me, and all the things I'm entitled to,
Entitled.
and then yes, and all the things I'm entitled to that I'm not getting, and how bad life has been to me, then I'm like, red flag, red flag, red flag. This guy's a narcissist who is love bombing me into believing they're gaslighting, and then that, years down the road, when they have used you and abused you and discarded you, and sometimes even killed you, at least emotionally, then they move on to tell people you're the narcissist, and they move on to the next victim because they got everything out of you that they could. And when people are in a position of influence, we are magnets to those people left and right because they see power.
You know what's interesting to me
Mhm.
is that the more that I experience life, the more that I experience that, is that I can typically help somebody expose their self fairly rapidly
Mhm.
by loving them the way they need to be loved. Not being rude or disrespectful to them, but just navigating communication
Yeah.
so that they can expose themselves real fast.
If you get them talking, I think they expose themselves.
Yeah,
Again.
and even to themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
I
and
don't
they
know.
might be they might be blind to who they are,
Hmm.
but I still think that God can open a window to them when words come out of their mouths
Yeah.
that they didn't realize that they were who they were. Because I know that
Mhm.
sometimes things come out of my mouth, and I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
that's not who I thought that I was when I might be in one of those pressurized situations. Probably not like you experienced back in 2020, but still, there's challenges in life every day. If not every day, then maybe you're not aware.
Yeah.
And maybe I said something that, wasn't that askewed, but it wasn't exactly what I thought that I thought.
Yeah.
And when words come out of my mouth, and we can help people around us process what's in their hearts by having intentional conversations with them, not manipulating. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is just having meaningful conversations about something more than the weather.
Yeah.
Which we're doing here.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you coming by. And let's do this again.
Yes, absolutely.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?